750 registrations for the 8 sessions that we are doing this week, and it shows there is a lot of interest in surety. Now, we're recording this session for posterity. You'll receive a message after the Surety Week with instructions how to access this. This session is entitled Technology and Surety, and I'm sure you'll all agree that digitization and technology is crucial for our industry in the year 2022. Now, for that reason, we've got 2 pearls for you. The one pearl that is still in the oyster is Susan Kearney. Susan is Director of Engagement and Product Lab Exploration of RiskStream, a not-for-profit by the Insurance&Surety. And after Gustavo Krieger, she will present how we can actually put surety on the blockchain. But first, we've got the pearl from our Southern Hemisphere. Our member, Afianzadora Latinoamericana, has quite something to show for when it comes to digitization based on pure business logic. Gustavo, the president of Afianzadora, could not be with us today, but I'm sure you'll agree that his recorded performance is more than worth watching. Again, please put your questions in the chat. Susan will do her utmost to answer these for you at the end of the session, and question to Gustavo will be relayed to him. Please enjoy, and please welcome Susan Kearney. Susan, floor is yours.
Oh, are you going to go to Gustavo first?
Gustavo first, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, ICISA, for the opportunity given me to share my company experience in change made in the administrative and system field. To start with, let me introduce myself. My name is Gustavo Krieger. I am a lawyer. I am president of Afianzadora Latinoamericana, a company specialized and exclusively devoted to the field of surety bond. Previously, I have been vice president of Aurea, a Brazilian company, also works in bonds. And previous that is prehistoric and no sense to explain here, but just to have an idea who I am. Second one, excuse me, because this is recording, and I am not in Argentina right now. I am traveling and visiting some reinsurers. Let me tell you that if you have any question, ask my mail in ICISA, or I will give you is gkrieger at afianzadora.com.ar. Afianzadora is a young institution, very young. It was founded in 2005 and managed to reach an important place in the professional surety bond world today. We can proudly say that we have successfully made it because it is known that be one of the most prestigious company in the market. In fact, in the last survey, we reached the 2nd position in this ranking. And if we talk about the ranking of sales, we are in the 3rd position among the specialist companies. Introduction made, I would like to tell you about what we have done to meet our goals and hopefully our future expansion plans. We have been working over 2 main aspects. First, on a radical change in the administrative manager model, and second, modifying the company's core system to go with this management change and to provide quickness and efficiency to the decision-making process. Let's begin with the change in the management model. We carry out a survey among clients and producers. That is very important to have in mind, because we wanted to know which tribe they value most at the time of choosing a surety bond company. Of course, the price ranked first, But second, and almost unanimous, was the quickness in response. Either affirmative or negative, but as quick as possible. We start to give our thought to ways of reducing our response time. We first noticed that the approval process change was too long. In a company with a pyramid organization such as ours, there were too many steps before getting the approval or rejection of the bond. So we decide to flatten the pyramid and eliminate levels which only seemed to hinder the process. But we realized that this change was not significant and could be easily copied by our competitors, which turned it into a relative but ephemeral advantage. Our development has to be much more revolutionary and had to change some old-fashioned paradigms. After some debates by the managers, we reached a conclusion. We should change the traditional triangle pattern for a circular one, which would include integrate operative cells. Absolutely revolutionary. One person from the commercial area, an underwriter, a collection executive, and an issuer. The issue order could be put forward through any cells and find a solution there. The CEO will be in the center of this circle to solve special operations so big that they would be beyond the cell authorization power. This way, in short, we have managed to reduce response and issue time significantly today among the companies in the market. We take pride in taking the shortest time to make the policy underwriting, insurance, and delivery without affecting quality at all. We currently have 3 active cells within the circular pattern, and with them we can completely meet our client needs. Of course, it was necessary to train our staff because the new model called for an investment in the decision-making process, and not everyone was ready to assume such responsibility. Therefore, in this first stage, we create a unique surety bond school for employees to train them in the how and why they must have decision with no fear, only for our employees. They understood the model and they also made contribution to improve it. They learned that it was no longer possible to delegate upwards, a very traditional system that many employees used to use, at least here. Now it was them, us, each one, whoever was in charge, the one responsible for deciding together with their cellmate. It is true that this practice exercise took a while, but I can assure that it is currently functioning with great dynamic. You may be interested in learning about other changes that took place after the restructuring was implemented. First, we achieved a higher level of specialization in the main industry of the country, which allow us better segmentation of each cell assignment according to the portfolio of each broker and producer. This let us provide the best level of knowledge over the specifics of each industry and especially over the different challenges the economy agents have to face according to 2 sides, industry and operating capacity. As the team are interdisciplinary and work jointly together, another extremely positive benefit of the restructuring was the possibility of reacting in a self-coordinated way to contingency which appeared during the pandemic, such as the absence of any of the sales member, such a cross-substitution chain allow an organic replacement, and it does not affect just one area. We conclude that the fact of working in the same team with mates from other areas has contributed to setting multidisciplinary goals. This prevents close and based inside according to the area, although each of them has their own responsibilities, objective, and budget. Frequent teams meeting both holistic look, which is definitely what an organization looks for when trying to optimize itself. For the change in our vision, the Surety Bond School, which I mentioned before, has been vital. The comprehensive approach we have provided our business with here in Afianzadora has been very attractive for those who work as intermediaries and surety bond, because it lets them learn about the approach we have as an insurance company and improve their knowledge about the product and the way of making a more complete and efficiency commercial presentation. As time went by, the school became famous outside of Afianzadora's internal sphere, and we have opened our doors to our client and public in general. It is currently working both for the local and international market. Let me tell you that only in 2021, we offered more than 5 full model courses with over 800 virtual attendants, brokers, employees, producer, association, producer association, reinsurers, and even some colleagues interested in operating in the surety bond field. What did we do on technology system to support this big change? That is an important question. It was obvious that 100% of policy had to be digital. Despite the experience of being the first insurance company in the Argentine market, they issue electronic policy for the custom. We now faces the challenge of showing the security provided for the digital policy for the other risk. It was the most difficult task, but today all our insurance process is digital and we have no paper in our desk. Due to the local lockdown set by the Argentinian government in March 2020, as many other countries in the world, the use of the digital policy became mandatory for all the Argentine surety bond market, said before. In Afianzadora, we had been advocating for this alternative for many years. Therefore, this change in paradigms found us in the best situation to issue electronic policies. Literally, the day after the lockdown, we established, however, the road had not ended. Beneficiaries still lacked awareness, especially of the public area, so it was necessary to train a lot of the function of technology to make its adoption easier and to improve the product safety every day. Under this banner, we started training producer, broker, holders, and the insurer to explain about the use of this bond. We applied a crossed control so that beneficiaries could validate the policies issued on our web, and we include the possibility of certifying policies digital through a notary for those state-insured whose binding condition. Not update for some years demanded the presentation of a certified bond. Even thought the adoption of the digital policy substantially improved the policy delivery time. We believe that definite solution lies on another type of technology and process. That is why we are in contact with consultancy firms which specialize in blockchain technology, because we believe that is the source for our times. Definite solution. A product validated in a decentralized way, immediately and at a lower cost. For this reason, once again, we went into the hard task of evangelizing our controlling organs and the main public beneficiaries. Back into Afianzadora internal area, the following step was to work on other aspects such as the insurance and the underwriting. We left the reinsurance to the end because it did not affect the delay in the bond insurance. The possibility of integrating and combining all the indicators we use within Afianzadora's analytics let us give some business another analysis scope. For this purpose, we made a dramatic but necessary decision to migrate from the whole ERP of the company for a platform, which had been tried for years and had accompanied us in our leadership position we boast today. To another platform tailor-made to suit our current needs. Many of you, for sure, have undergone a similar experience because, after all, it is necessary to involve if one wants to grow. That is why, and I at the time thought not a trivial one, a new integral operative system was implemented on the 1st of July 2020, exactly 2 months after declaring the complete national lockdown, which would last at least 5 months more. It will be the basis for the development of a circular structure, the totally digital issuance, and the combination of indicators with alerts. We were very much convinced that it was necessary to adopt these new possibilities. I don't want to go further into describing this experience, but I can say that this implementation has been complete success, and we have been able to migrate the new system immediately. And it was not necessary to work with the previous system at the same time. Today, we send our announcement and alert newsletter to our brokers and producers every week. They contain customized ads on the condition of their current portfolio. They are also sent to our sales to give notice of wide situation of those which call for attention. 5 years ago, Afianzadora decided to start a technological renewal process to rank within the leading companies in IT on the market. For that purpose, 6 areas were identified to focus on. In 2017, the infrastructure received the biggest investment ever in the history of the company. And our data center was taken to an hybrid cloud structure. This let us get the cloud's benefits without any bottleneck, following potential connection problems. This way, we fostered our infrastructure with the best of the 2 worlds, the high availability and the cloud scalability, the robustness and the malleability of our own equipment in our data center. Together with this change in paradigms regarding the server in 2 years, all the user PCs were renewed so that our staff counted on state-of-the-art equipment. Once the cloud was filled with data, we started with the development of department boards aimed at making access to information more democratic. The information is useful and trustworthy for the decision-making process. It's fundamental. Many tools were tested until we found Power BI. And I hand with Microsoft and hand in hand with Microsoft, we developed over 35 boards, special for each sector. Gathering data from multiple origins and unified criteria to analyze daily case. Having data on the cloud, the next step was to modernize our platform for producer and clients, making the most of our IT team's experience. Together with the collaboration of external supplier, we managed to develop an extranet with Afianzadora's stamp, robust, agile, and modern. Since it was born in May 2019, the platform has been growing to incorporate functions that would turn IT into a virtual office, where producer and clients may operate 24 hours, 7 days from any device or place, wherever they are. Just as in 2017, some investments were made in infrastructure. 2018 means another milestone in the history of Afianzadora, not only as regard investments, but also as a system development role model. The company went from using a platform shared by different companies of the market to having its own system, highly customizable, which lets every area tailor its process with absolutely freedom. This way, the system goes with the process that people define and not the other way around. This also pushed a change in the user way of thinking, as they stopped being only consumer of the system and started to take part in modeling their own circuits. The process was neither quick nor simple. It was really costly, both in economic and human aspect. The new system was launched on the 1st of July 2020 during strict lockdown, and while 100% of the company human resources and also our strategic supplier were working from home, despite all debts generated by the situation. The implementation was a real success. The operation was never stopped, and if there were mistakes or problems, the solution was almost immediately. This also showed the human quality of those involved in the process. Obviously, and looking back, it took quite a long time, even more than initially expected. But we have come to the point where the change are paying off. Today, our ARP reflects the process of each sector and level us as in a constant improvement position to take full advantage of the resources invested. The pandemic meant, among other things, lockdowns which pushed companies to modify the way they had to carry out their daily activities. Afianzadora was ready for such a scenario. A week before the lockdown was established, at the end of March 2020, all the employees were ready to work from home. Even 6 months before, the first circuit of digital signature in policies was implemented, which turned Afianzadora into a pioneer in the market field. Extremely important. One of the most important incentives to stabilize the implementation of the core system was the possibility of automating process and circuit which were made on paper or manually before. This meant the automation of many circuit and process. The entire circuit of digital policy, signature and distribution, which means a lower probability of making mistakes and the possibility of more agile deliveries. The circuit of policies approval, which allowed this underwriting area to devote more time to more worthwhile activities. Very important for us. This delivery of invoice for only collection of some specific risk and the later delivery of policies once the payment is processed. Once the system was stabilized, a new possibility appeared to implement an API for the automatic process of policy orders. By applying the IA and machine learning, we may turn any type of interaction into transaction with ARP. This may be made with directions screenshot in the same API emails, existing interfaces with brokers, and even a multi-channel chatbot. These transactions are later controlled by our operation team and are turned into policy with just with a simple click. Following the implementation of new tools, a wide range of possibilities was open to strengthen the technological bond with the main brokers of the country. The high customization level of the ARP and the extranet allow us to blend into any broker, no matter which system or platform they use. Besides, those producers who do not have a generous budget for the technology may give their client access through our extranet, and the site appears to be there. This functionality is highly valuable for many, since it means double fidelization from the clients to the producer and from the producer to afianzador. These pillars have left us on solid ground, and we are ready for the future. Finally, I would like to tell you that the result of all these changes are already visible. Today, the company is acting in a modern and dynamic environment. But the most important thing is that all of us have learned about the need for a permanent change as a way towards development and progress. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in Helsinki.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you join me in saying a heartfelt wow. If we ever thought of Argentina as an emerging market, well, I think that Gustavo has showed us in surety it is surely not. For me, this is the perfect example of a marriage between tech, business, but without losing that surety mindset, and I think that is quite remarkable. I see a super on the chat, and as far as I can see, I have not seen anything on the chat as a question to Gustavo. You've probably taken down his email address if you do. If you want to reach him and you did not do this, please send an email to secretariat@icisa.org and we'll see that it comes to Gustavo. Now, from Argentina, let's move to the US. And let's move to a true cutting-edge example of technology with Susan Kearney of the of Ristream Collaborative. And Susan, And Susan, can I ask you to take it away? Thank you.
You got it. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, and thank you, Richard, for that introduction, and also to ICISA for providing me the opportunity to speak to you all about a global surety bond initiative that is focused on using blockchain technology as a potential solution to help it accelerate its digital transformation. After following Gustavo, I was like, I really need to up my slides. That's a tough act to follow. I've broken down today's short session into four main topics. After providing a little bit of an overview of this initiative, I want to really just touch upon the problem the industry is trying to solve, why Ristream Collaborative, and how blockchain can help. And as Richard mentioned, we will leave a few minutes at the end for Q&A. And in the interest of time, we're just going to dive right into the session. So I think we can all agree that there have been pain points associated with a surety bond for decades. While those pain points might differ by business models and even by markets, when we look at a global market, they generally involve handoffs between systems and people And historically, as we know, there is a lot of paper. Even with watermark paper and physical seals, the processes have also been ripe with fraud. This problem has grown even more complex over the last 20 years with the advent of electronic bonding and procurement systems. For example, each new system or that sureties are required to support for their principals, sureties generally have to keep their systems in sync with those other procurement and electronic business systems. And if agents and brokers are involved, they must do the same. And as you can imagine, this has resulted in a duplication of data, high touch, and potential for errors. And as we know, there's been this proliferation of electronic bonding solutions over time. And the industry has really set an objective to revolutionize the surety industry, not only to increase efficiency and accelerate digital transformation, but really eliminate a lot of redundancies by offering a single source of truth. And when you look at the capabilities of blockchain technology, this is one very viable solution that can help solve a lot of the industry problems and achieve this objective, which we'll discuss in a little bit more detail. So one of the things that I also wanted to mention that, prior to COVID-19 pandemic, advocating for this adoption for electronic bonds, which has been around for over 20 years, was really not viewed as a priority for the industry. So as we've seen, if there's really any silver lining, the pandemic has really acted as a catalyst for this renewed focus on the need for transitioning to digital bonding. And, one of the things that I feel that evidences this is by the engagement and the support of the industry, the global industry of this initiative. As you can see, with the incredible support of surety associations like ICISA, this initiative has not only garnered large market support, but is also gaining traction globally. So if you see on the left here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the two use cases that we currently, and these are much more in the infancy stage than what Gustavo has presented. But we have a proof of concept we're going to be talking a little bit about, which is actually, when you look at it, we have over 50%, 57%. Now this is US and Canada market share, but when you take that on a global, that could be a little bit larger than that. In addition, we have 68, almost 69% of the market share really involved, either through our power of attorney or our surety bond delivery and verification use case. As mentioned here, over 130 global organizations are participating from across the globe. So I think this is very exciting times. Since this initiative's launch, really in early 2021, Ristream has led the way with a collaborative approach, again, bringing over 130 surety organizations together to really help solve the business challenges associated with surety bond by leveraging blockchain technology. We have open industry working group sessions. A power of the attorney use case was identified as one of the most, not only with the most interest, but in addition to that, just using blockchain for the bonds themselves was kind of secondary. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So in early 2021, the power of attorney exploration working group kicked off first, and this has advanced to the build of a proof of concept. Now, we utilize proof of concepts before really diving into production We like to determine the feasibility of the idea and really verify from a technology standpoint that this is going to function as envisioned. The second use case involving surety bond delivery and verification kicked off in December of last year, and we're actually nearing the end of our exploration phase where we determine to move forward with, again, a proof of concept. I'm going to explain a little bit more on each of these in just a moment. So let's take a look at the power of attorney use case. As mentioned, this use case has advanced to the build of a proof of concept. Now, you know, what's interesting in all of our working groups, in our initial phases at Open Industry Invite, we work with the industry to really develop kind of what we consider a high-level process flow. Then from there, we identify areas that we can build out a proof of concept that is small enough to prove it and not too large, because sometimes when you take on too much, it becomes very challenging to really showcase whether or not it's a viable solution. So as mentioned, those organizations that were involved in the proof of concept working group were really get involved in the design for the build, and they're able to test it. So with the completion of the proof of concept for the power of attorney, those organizations involved in that are currently preparing for testing. Now, one of the things that I wanted to mention, since the current power of attorney use case is more US centric, because it does involve the attachment of the power of attorney to the bond, which again, is more US centric from the surety and the agent and broker request and approval process. This graphic is representative more from the US process. And again, highlighted in blue is the current scope of the proof of concept that really is just focusing on the power of attorney request, approval, and validation. But what it does illustrate is additional future functionality that supports the overall vision that includes, again, when we look to the next use case, the bond delivery and validation, which is being explored in a secondary lab. Now, one of the things that, you know, was considered is that while the proof of concept for the existing surety bond power of attorney advances, it really was an opportune time to launch in parallel this next phase. And when I like to look at this, you know, you look at the power of attorney scope, and in the middle, steps 5, 6, and 7, you'll notice are really, again, a little bit different from 7, 8, and 9. And the reason for that is that this second graph is really lean more heavily on non-US markets such as Europe, Latin America, Canada. However, because US is equally important as the next building block to the power of the attorney use case, we thought it would be very beneficial to really look at the journey for this use case, genericized based on the European model. And again, we understand that there's the possibility of other models based on conversations and that we've held with the industry and the working group, but we thought it was a good high-level representation of the process to assist us in aligning the working group on where to focus the power, the proof of concept. So again, we want to keep the scope small, yet provide enough to prove out the solution's potential and feasibility while showing value. And the great thing about these use cases is why, you know, I always say blockchain, but similarly, we're building little pieces of the use case, which eventually can connect. And I think that's a really kind of cool thing. When you think about it, all these pieces will eventually connect. Another thing that I think is really important to mention that As with kind of other lines of business that risk streams explore, we do see a number of opportunities for blockchain that will benefit the surety industry. And again, this list is not all encompassing, but really showcases where we can go. And, you know, when you take a look, I think Gustavo was mentioning in the underwriting, the reinsurance, the actual execution, there's a lot of interesting use cases that in the future can be built in terms of looking at how much value they can bring, putting them on the blockchain and connecting them over time to the other use cases. It's pretty exciting when you think of the capabilities. And one of the things that we kind of take a look at before we dive into really deciding which use cases to focus is we like to look at what I could call a problem statement. So, you know, we worked with the working group to really define the problem statement. And this is important because it helps to clarify or state the problem of the project and what it will address to help identify the best technological solution to employ to solve the problem. So again, you know, there's all these different technologies that are out there. And the important part is to look at what the problem you're trying to solve and then align the technology that can best help solve that problem. And again, in this case, when you look at the current process of executing, delivering, verifying surety bonds, again, we talked about the using of all these different bonding systems, requiring stakeholders to subscribe to and work within those systems, but also you have a number of disparate stakeholders, a number of disparate stakeholder systems involved, which creates this interoperability issue, duplicated work, and as we talked about, this risk of error. And generally, with this lack of security, transparency, and trust in the exchange of information, it really has created on a larger scale a universal problem to the industry. And that is where we talk a little bit about blockchain. Now, before we go there, one of the things that I often get asked about is why RiskStream Collaborative? And this is not meant to be an infomercial, as you'll see in a minute. So for those unfamiliar with us, RiskStream is a nonprofit, the industry's largest enterprise blockchain consortium. We have over 30 leading carriers, brokers, reinsurers as members, and our aim is to create this ecosystem within the risk management and insurance industry that leverages scalable enterprise blockchain framework to help really provide these operational efficiencies by really focusing on the streamlining of the sharing and verification of data. Now, RiskStream Collaborative is backed by the institutes, which is also a nonprofit. And many of you who may be familiar with them, they provide property and casualty insurance education and professional development to the industry for over 100 years. So, you know, a lot of people say, how is an insurance education in technology? And it's a great question because after our significant industry demand was determined, we actually, the institutes created RiskStream Collaborative to really support the industry in researching, exploring, and developing network-based technologies like blockchain to really improve and better the insurance and risk management industries. Now, the Institute's board consists of approximately 30 to 40 insurance CEOs, and we represent about 60 to 70% of domestic insurance premium, but we also have a sizable international presence. Now, why is this important? I'm going to bring it all together. Given blockchain is a network-based technology within a highly regulated industry. As a neutral, industry-driven entity, we're uniquely positioned to facilitate and govern non-biased industry-wide led forums and really advance blockchain solutions. We've already built and are testing use cases in personal auto, and next up, we're also looking as a next large initiative for Restream is in the surety bond space. Another thing that I think is worth mentioning is that we provide a network to the entire surety community to help come together to solve problems. In the center of this slide is our membership categories of carriers, producers, and reinsurers. And our consortium, although member-led, as we have expanded out, we need to involve and have involved the greater ecosystem. And some of these entities, as you'll see here, we talk about on the upper right is our associations, which have been critical to this initiative. ICISA, NASBP, PASA, SAC, and SFAA. They really have been instrumental in supporting the project and bringing the industry together. We also have on our top left, another one that I wanted to point out is the solution providers. These are existing surety system or surety system platform providers that many of you may already be connecting to, and that will continue as we'll talk about in a little bit. And again, the collaborators and the civics, especially in the US and other non-US, are very important, especially in the power of the attorney processing. So one of the things that I wanted to quickly mention is we talk about labs and Restream labs and the different phases. This graphic just really showcases each of the phase labs that we have at Restream. As we mentioned, we like to take all the use cases that we have and filter them through the system so that we identify those that are most interest to the industry and move those forward. And those that don't garner enough support, we move on to another one on the list or the funnel. And we think this is a very important process to ensure that before we build it for the industry, it's something that they need. And without the cost associated with that for those participants that are involved in the initiatives, time and resources. So how can a blockchain solution help? I mean, we talked about we're living through this shift in technology right now. And, how many of us would have predicted you'd be in a virtual meeting every day, or you'd still be working from home like myself? And again, technology has really provided us a way to cope and has salvaged the ability for us to remain productive. And just like payments have moved to credit cards and e-commerce emerge, work from home capabilities have taken off. And this is really important when we talked about the pandemic and a lot of focus on working from home of additional technology solutions that can help. So, when we talk about how a blockchain solution can help, as we talked about before, and many of you may be familiar, it is a decentralized distributed database, meaning data is not stored in one location. It's broadcast to all the parties in a shared ledger. So I talk about it, it's basically a decentralized record keeping system, but with the main virtues of security and instant verification. Many people, I talk about it with blockchain, you have a single ledger of transaction or entries between multiple parties that can access it in our base in an enterprise blockchain on a permission basis. And it really helps simplify the coordination and validation efforts, because there's always a single version of records, not two or more disparate databases or records. So again, with blockchain the revolution, one of the things that it really has solved is a critical puzzle piece that's missing between the organization's traditional centralized databases and perhaps software as service, our SaaS systems, and it's allowing a giant leap forward in efficiency and scale by the shared state of the record, which is really, it just provides a means to reach finality on a transaction that beyond a reasonable doubt, technical doubt, that all the systems in all the parties have access to the same data and outcome. And I think that's really important in addition to the immutability of that data so that it can't be tampered with by any individual in the system. So again, it's reasonably protected from a security perspective. And this is one of the key reasons that the surety bond process is so ideally suited for a blockchain solution, because it really aligns with the three basic principles that support its use. One, it excels at handling multi-party workflows and exchanging data between two or more parties. It also is ideally optimal type of technology to interconnect through the existing multiple data sources in a trusted way. In addition, it really, when you look at having a cooperative type of network, this is the type which we will showcase that it brings a cooperative business network that's open to all stakeholders. So jumping ahead, because I know we're limited on in our time, one of the things to just kind of better understand the blockchain capabilities is I'm using this simple illustrative example. This is just involving the delivery and the signature of the bond, at least in Europe. Most sureties are executing the bond since they legally can't give power of attorney to agents and brokers. So I'm going to start with this. It's going to be super quick, just to get it kind of illustrated. And as I wanted to mention is our blockchain business network is a private permissioned platform. It's often called enterprise blockchain, and it's ideally suited for these intercompany data exchanges and verifications. And again, there's a variety of systems that in the process that can interact with the blockchain business network. It's important to note is that this application integrates with the existing systems. So we're not talking about the stakeholders' core systems going away. It's really interconnecting these systems. So as you can see here, once that surety issues the bond, it would go to the agent and broker system receiving notification. Everything is kind of automated in real time of that bond. Then the agent and broker can review that bond, and if acceptable, it sends the bond to be signed by the principal. And again, this is just an illustrative. There are so many variations of systems that are being used, but the key point is once that bond is executed and sent to the beneficiary, what happens is that these events, any change in that bond, would trigger automatic notifications that there's a fully executed bond or a change in the state of that bond, and receipt of the delivery would go to all permissioned parties on that network. It would also be available to be viewed by permissioned parties. And this was something that we've heard from the sureties, that they not always get a copy of the fully executed bond. This would enable all the systems to connect and have that shared state. And, you know, one of the things that people ask is, well, this doesn't look too different from what's going on now. But I think what I wanted to showcase, it's really behind the scenes or invisible to the user. So behind the scenes, it really allows for these, it's really the blockchain platform that allows the ability for multiple entities to establish this common ground and documents and data and processes are maintained and shared by a group across the business network. And they are shared for those who need to see it. And any changes, whether it's in the documents, the data, or the shared processes, there would be a way so that there would be notifications to those parties of changes in the shared state. So I know that's a lot, but it's just a simplistic way of showcasing that when you pull back and look under the covers, that's where all the magic happens. Again, the value proposition, I'll leave that here. A lot of these pieces we talked about, and I believe these slides will also be shared afterwards. One of the key aspects that we have captured also that I think are really important are the stakeholder benefits. And these were broken down for each of the existing stakeholders, from the surety not having to sync multiple systems, to agents and brokers also not having to sync multiple systems, but also for each of these parties, this is a whole tracking and audit trail. And beneficiaries and obligees, of course, they want the peace of mind that the claims are going to get paid so they can track them. They're going to get real-time access to bond validation and a more peace of mind from a secure perspective, kind of reducing the fraud. And the principals, of course, they went quicker process so they can get the bid and go to work. So with that, I know we only have a couple minutes, but I wanted to open it up for any questions. A lot to take in a short period of time.
Thanks so much, Susan. Maybe if you take back your desktop. Right, now we can all see you full size. Thank you so much. And thank you for an impressive presentation. And what impresses us is the way that RiskStream handles this, and that it's a non, or rather a pre-competitive platform, similar to Swift, but much more inclusive because it's the whole value chain. And what this does is it makes our industry a lot more attractive, which is great in every market, but especially really important in markets where we compete against banks. This can make the difference. It cuts inefficiency and it's wonderful. Now, in the meantime, a number of questions have popped up, and I want to put three to you given time. First one, being a very business-like question, are there any numbers on the potential cost or time savings of implementing blockchain solutions to the surety industry? Have we done that study yet?
So great question. And in fact, in both of the surety bond power of attorney and this use case, we recently have put out a survey to gain business metrics around that. So the survey is open to the industry. We have 2 more weeks left in which that is open from a surety bond perspective only. So we hope to really continue developing and having those business metrics and building a report for ROI down the road. Great question.
It is a great question because that'll make the difference, right?
Yes, it does. And in all our use cases, the first question.
Another one from a producer this time. Is the working group reviewing the Global Trade Corporation's Global Trade Platform, which I understand is being used by some multinational clients to request guarantees from participating banks and uploading documentation? In Europe, I understand some sureties are exploring how to plug into this platform.
In the short term, we actually had banks as a stakeholder. I think that would be more futuristic in terms of connecting. The first goal is to get our proof of concept and validate whether or not this will work from a platform. And then certainly down the road, there are other types of existing systems that can easily connect into the network. It's just determining how and the value in terms of interconnecting all the systems, of how that would happen, I guess is the better question. I would need to know a little bit more, but that would be more of a futuristic iteration of any of our initiatives.
if the person who asked the question is okay with that, and let's see it on the chat. Michael, would you be okay if your email address is passed to Susan? I'll wait for a yes, and in the meantime, ask one more question, because I think this is a cool one. Have you also looked at token-based insurance solutions in your risk stream labs? If so, what's your take on solutions such as Nexus Mutual or EtherRisk that build the whole insurance framework from the ground up on the blockchain?
Yeah. So another super question to a business folk. I'm not a technologist, so I'm more on the business side, as everyone knows. However, I will mention we are actually exploring tokenization at Riskstream. There's a couple use cases, not specific to this one yet, that tokenization is being explored. I believe it's in our mortality monitor, which is another life and annuities use case. But it's certainly something along with DeFi and the NFTs that the industry is continuing to have us explore and see how we might utilize that for, really improve efficiencies for the industry. So it's something that's definitely been explored, and we have capabilities with our platform.
And that's the great thing about technology, and the great thing about Riskstream. You never stop.
Yes, exactly.
And there will be a
we
next
get it all.
Right? So I think we've pretty much run out of time. Susan, thank you so much. And what a lot of people might not realize is it's President's Day today. And Susan and a number of folks from the US are showing their extreme dedication to this industry by logging on and seeing, hey, what's new, right? Now, this session has been recorded, so please tell your friends, your colleagues in what kind of cool industry that we work in, and they can take a look. They can review this this presentation and see the pearls that we try to present to you. So we thank everyone for their interest, and we will carry on tomorrow, Central European time at 10 a.m. with a great panel on ESG, which is another big topic of our industry. Hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you all for attending. Thank you again, Susan.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day or evening.
Bye-bye now.